Good morning everyone and welcome to the beautiful high desert of southwestern Wyoming. You know, I had someone ask me recently what the high desert was, what high desert meant. And it's just the desert, but higher in elevation. So here we're at about 6,600 feet. I think that qualifies as high elevation. And it's the desert because it doesn't rain much out here. It's pretty dry out here. And I'm really excited about today's adventures, today's video, because, well, for two main reasons. The first is that the area that we're going to be exploring is close to my heart because it's close to home. We're only about 15 minutes from where I live. I live in Rock Springs, Wyoming. That's just over here. This is Interstate 80. This is the fastest route between Salt Lake City, which is over here, and Denver, which is over here. So if you've driven between those two cities, there's a good chance you passed by this area. And so I love this area. I think the high desert of this part of Wyoming is really interesting and really beautiful, and we're going to be exploring a bunch of little known sites in this area, starting with this thing, but we'll get to that in a second. And the second reason I'm excited for today's adventures is that we're ending up over this way in the mountains, in real mountains. We're going to the Wind River Range, which is one of the great mountain ranges of the United States. I haven't been there yet this year. It's still pretty early in the season. We're still, as of recording this is still the spring. There's still gonna be a lot of snow up there, but I think we'll be able to make it happen. And so we're starting off the day with this thing. This is the first of 8 or 10 little things that I wanted to see and show you guys today. We've seen these before in various videos. This is an Airmail navigation arrow made out of concrete, dating back to the early 1900s. So these were built before the advent of sonar or GPS or radar or any of that stuff. These were used to help early airmail pilots figure out their way across the country and not get lost. There are several of these interpretive signs here at the arrow. This one talks about a nearby plane crash that happened back in the day. This one talks about airmail trivia. This one talks about an early cross-country airplane race. This one is all in Braille, but this one talks about what this was. So this is a great way of putting it. A lighthouse in the desert. So there would have been these beacons, these towers with lights on them. That's an example of what the light looked like. So there would have been these arrows, and then at the tail end or nearby, I think at this particular site, it was right here, there would have been a little hut and then a tower with a beacon on it to show those early pilots, those brave early pilots, where they should go. And then here's a route, or a map of the various airmail routes. You can see they kind of started in Chicago, or at least that was the hub of a lot of activity. And then we are right here in southwestern Wyoming on the main route going across the country. You can see Rock Springs right there. That's basically where we are. And so these arrows would have been painted white to be very visible during the day, and the beacons would have been lit at night to show the way. They were gas powered, the beacons were, and there would have been a lighthouse keeper, a beacon keeper living on site and tending to the beacon, making sure it was running at night. And as I was looking around here, I saw what looks like a little medicine bottle underneath the rock. I'm guessing that's a geocache. Let's take a closer look. We want to make sure there are no scorpions or snakes or anything under here. Let's see. Yeah, I got a couple of little plastic frogs, these little jumping frog things. And a pill bottle. Let's see, the most recent entry was about 8 months ago. And the earliest entries here are about 12 years ago. This has been here since 2013. That's pretty cool. All right, I'm gonna sign this, and we're gonna hop back in the car and explore more of this beautiful area. So we're gonna be exploring Sweetwater County, part of Sweetwater County today. Again, that's where I live. That's where Rock Springs and Green River are. Those are the biggest towns in this area. This county is huge. It's about 10,000 square miles. It's bigger than, I think, 6 or 8 US states, bigger than several countries. It's very large, very vast, very empty, which makes it such a fun place to explore. Our second stop of the day is what I've seen called a living ghost town. We are in Superior, Wyoming. That's the name of this little town. At its peak, in its heyday, the population here was about 3,000. It's now about 180 something. And this was a coal mining town. So Wyoming has more coal than all of Europe, apparently. I read that. I don't know if that's true, but sounds true enough. And the mines here were active from about the 1920s to about the 1950s or 60s. And one of the most prominent buildings in town is this. This is called Union Hall. I think now it's sort of an open-air museum, but it used to be the largest Union meeting place, Union Hall, west of the Mississippi. There are now just a handful of interpretive signs here. You can read about the town a little bit, read about the hall itself. And it looks like a lot of the back of it has fallen down, fallen apart through the years. You can pause on this sign here to read more about it. But basically, unions were started to protect the workers, to improve conditions, to improve their pay and their work hours and everything. And the hall itself, which served also as a community center, was built in 1921. And interestingly, the architect and builder are unknown. And then here's looking back toward the front from the rear end of the building. Obviously, it's been stabilized, been protected. Pretty neat. Neat old building. And back in the day, back in the heyday, there were people from all over the world in this area. People came from all over to work the coal mines here and in Rock Springs and just in this region in general. According to company payroll records, there were something like 33 nationalities represented here. I'll put those on the screen here in case you're interested. Some of them aren't politically correct, as we would call them today, but I'll put them here on the screen anyway. It's very interesting. In the middle of town is this nice little park. It's very pleasant. This is actually a nicer little town than I thought it would be. I thought it'd be just super dumpy, and it, you know, the buildings have certainly seen better days, but there is a charm to this place that I wasn't really expecting. Some more old buildings along the main drag here. Check out this old house. This neat old house on the hill. And then the old town hall and fire station right there. Here's the town post office with a bulletin board of announcements. There's also a branch of the Sweetwater County Library here in town, believe it or not. Another neat old house made from local sandstone. There's a neat old steam engine from the 1800s, and then I just passed a sign for the town. I didn't even realize this was here. But yeah, Live Ghost Town, Superior, Wyoming. Again, this is the first time I've been here, even though I only live like 25 minutes away. What a pleasant little spot. What a nice little semi-ghost town. We're now about a mile outside of town at the Superior Cemetery. So I wanted to come here because of the variety of old headstones here. The people here, again, came from a lot of different places, and that's reflected in the languages and the designs of the headstones. But also, the dates here, the death dates here are very interesting. A lot of the people here died between 1918 and 1920, and that was the big flu, the big influenza pandemic or outbreak in those World War I years. And that actually contributed significantly to the decline of Superior as a town. The town lost so many people during that influenza pandemic that it never really recovered. For example, Bortolo Donati here, obviously an Italian name. He died in 1918. This guy here, born in Finland, again died 1918. There's a row of family members that all died between 1918 and 1921. The Jelacha family, maybe. So I think that's some Slavic language, maybe Czech, I would guess. And another one from 1918. Yet another from 1918. This one's really interesting. Hector Sin, 1916 to 1921. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's Korean. Someone from Japan right here. And another. So I'm kind of in love with this area. I've never been up here before. This is so cool, so beautiful, so vast, so empty. Of course, that applies to all of this part of Wyoming, but also to this mesa that I'm on top of right now. This big flat plateau area that I've been driving across is called Zirkel Mesa. And I think that's also the name of this little mountain, the little cinder cone that I'm on top of. It's the highest point of Zirkel Mesa. And it is so beautiful up here. What a cool place. So Superior, the town that we went to, the almost ghost town, that is down over here somewhere, just beyond the edge of this kind of greenish rim. Rock Springs, the town that I live in, is in the distance over here. And if we continue on in that direction, can you see those mountains, those snowy mountains on the horizon? Those are the Uinta Mountains, the highest mountain range in Utah, going up to about 13,500 feet. Beautiful day today. A little bit moody, a little bit cloudy, but also a little bit sunny. And then over in the other direction, if we zoom on in, we'll be able to see our ultimate destination for the day. Can you see those snowy mountains right there? That, of course, is the Wind River Range. And I didn't realize that there would be so many of these small little mountains, these little cinder cones up here. Lots of them. Lots of good future peak bagging fodder up here. And then the summit itself has this little fence post thing and a little survey marker. And that's about it. It only took about 10 minutes to get up here, and we are just under 8,000 feet. And it's surprisingly green and lush up here, relatively speaking, of course. You know, this isn't the jungle, this isn't the rainforest, but for this area, it's very green. Part of that has to do with the time of year. Again, we're in the spring. This is a wet, relatively wet time of year. And you can see just tons of wildflowers out here. Orange ones, blue ones, yellow ones, white ones. It's really pretty. It's great to be up here. One other thing that we can see from up here that I haven't shown you. Over here, if we zoom on in, we can see some industrial scale something or another over there. That is actually the Bridger plant. It is a coal-operated power plant, and it and its associated coal mine are still in operation, and it employs about 800 people, which is a lot for this area where there aren't a lot of jobs or a lot of people. And the next thing that I'd planned on seeing is over sort of in that direction, but on my way in here, I saw something else kind of at the base of this mountain that piqued my interest, so let's go take a closer look at that. This is an old dump truck, and it's been here for decades. It's even older than that, obviously. No idea how old this thing is. If you know how to tell, leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. So this area, this little series of mini mountains here is called, well, I've seen it called a couple of things. First is the Pumice Mountains. Second is the Lucite Hills. And both pumice and lucite were mined from these little mountains, from these cinder cones. By the way, this is the one that I just climbed up, the one that you can see rising above the truck here. And so I assume that's what this was from extracting the rock from the mountainside here. You can see here how behind the truck the mountainside has been carved away, been mined away. And interestingly, the tires are actually still in pretty good shape. I mean, they're still recognizable as tires. I wonder if these are solid. Are these solid tires? Because they don't look especially flat. I mean, they're definitely, they are flat, but I feel like they've just kind of, melted, just kind of compressed. These must be solid tires, or I don't know. What do you guys think? Man, this is just solid steel. You can see the steering wheel, the little bit of rubber still around it. You can see all the levers for shifting and everything. Here's the engine. A lot of just solid metal, solid steel here. Braving the elements, standing the test of time, lasting for, again, decades and decades out here. One thing that I forgot to mention up on top of the mountain is that we're only about a mile or a mile and a half from the Continental Divide here. It's between us and one of these other cinder cones. The Continental Divide, of course, is the ridge of mountains that separates the western and the eastern watersheds of the United States, of North America. On the west side, all of the rivers and streams and waters eventually flow to the Pacific Ocean or other bodies of water connected to it. And on the east side, all of the rivers and streams and everything flow into the Atlantic Ocean and the bodies of water connected to it. And that's just right over here. And it's a little bit indistinct here. It's not, a jagged, rugged, obvious backbone of mountains. It's just this sort of high plateau. Pretty neat, huh? Also neat is hopefully what we're going to next. The next spot on the agenda for today is over there. It is an old archaeological site. This area is called Natural Corrals, And what drew me here was something I saw online called Natural Corrals Archaeological Site. It's a really interesting area, kind of a lava field of this volcanic rock here, these jumbled piles of boulders and cliffs. There is in fact some rock climbing on some of the cliffs over here. But the name Natural Corrals comes from this canyon right here. So as I understand it, the Native Americans would use this as a natural corral, including to trap and then butcher bison. I've been here for about an hour, wandering around, seeing if there was anything to see. I didn't have high hopes coming here. I just knew that this was an archaeological site that had been excavated in like the 70s or 80s. And what they found was basically two different periods of settlement. So Native Americans were here about 2,000 years ago, and then again in about the 1800s. This area is also obviously more lush than the surrounding area. I don't know if because water just gathers here or if there are natural springs here, but I'm parked over here. I've wandered around basically this entire area, scrambled over the rocks. I didn't really know what I was looking for because there's basically no information about this place online, but I tried to look for kind of rock overhangs, rock shelters, places where I thought if I were, here a couple hundred to a couple thousand years ago, places where I would want to hang out. And so I found a couple of these overhangs, basically boulders that were overhanging. I didn't find a whole lot beyond that. Like I couldn't find any petroglyphs, any rock art or anything. I did find some lithic scatter, which is a fancy name for the pieces of rock left over after you make an arrowhead. So I'll put a clip of that now. I sort of arranged them on top of a rock to see them better. And now is, I think, in the boulders over here somewhere, and that's just about it. So not the most fascinating site I've ever been to, but it was worth coming out here. I just wanted to see what it was like. And I climbed up on top of this rocky pillar thing, kind of the highest point in this area. Kind of steep drop-offs on the sides. And from up here, I noticed this little cave. And so I think we're gonna go check that out. Can you see that? A dark cave in the rocks, kind of overhang cleft thing. We're gonna go over there and then we'll get out of here. Wish me luck as I try to get off this thing. It was a little bit tricky climbing up here. Easy. Okay. Whew. Done. Well, not a whole lot to say about this spot. Like I didn't find an arrowhead or a human skull or anything like that. There are a lot of little animal bones, a lot of small animal bones here. I'll show you some of those in a second. But it's like 10 or 15 degrees cooler right here than, 10 feet over that way. Much, much cooler here. And that's reflected in the fact that there's actually moss right here on the ground of this little mini cave. And there are also even some little ferns that I saw on the other side of the camera. Look at the moss back in there. I imagine snow lasts in this area for a long time. I think this was probably only relatively recently snow covered. And then here's a little animal skull that I found. I don't know what that is, like a rat or a squirrel or something, maybe. Another little bone right there next to it. There are small bone fragments all at my feet, all along the bottom here. Another little cluster of bones right there. And then these little ferns, or whatever these are, growing in the dark recesses. And that's going to wrap it up for the Natural Corrals area. Again, didn't find anything too earth-shattering here, but it was a fun place to wander around. The next spot on the list is about an hour or two away on, again, more of the same remote, dusty, high desert roads. It's a spot that definitely does have some Native American presence to it, and I'm excited to see it. As far as I know, there's no other YouTube video showing that place, so I'll meet you there. Alrighty, it's a couple hours later. We are at the Cedar Canyon Petroglyphs. I walked a short distance to the top of this little knoll thing to give you guys a good view and the lay of the land here. That's where I parked. Pretty sandy little side road to get here. But man, what a beautiful area. I love all the trees here, all the pinyon and juniper trees. Very green. We have some bizarre rock formations like that thing out there. I love it. Again, more interesting little mountains for me to climb in the future. Just a really cool spot. But back to the petroglyphs. So I've already seen them. I walked from there along the little cliff band up to here, and the petroglyphs aren't super extensive. There aren't a ton of them, but they're really, really pretty. One of them in particular, but I wanted to mention that on the way here, I stopped very briefly at a ghost town, at least at the ruins of a ghost town. It was called Winton, and there's not a whole lot left of it, like some building foundations and some crumbling walls, and I didn't have a whole lot to say about it. It's another one of those places that's it was a coal mine, or a coal mining area rather, and when the mines shut down, the town kind of disappeared and died. I think that by the 50s or 60s, it was pretty much a ghost town, and as I understand it, a lot of the buildings that were there were actually moved to Rock Springs, so that's kind of interesting. Anyway, I took some drone footage, so I'm going to put that here, and then we'll show you the petroglyphs after that. So here are the petroglyphs, the first batch we're going to look at. There's a lot of this sort of thing here. Looks like plants, and there are a couple of suns right here. Some other, fertility looking petroglyphs. See what I mean? Just lots and lots of these. Lots over on the neighboring cliff. Really unique. You don't see this kind of thing very often. So I'm loving this. They're so, enigmatic, mysterious to me. Here's another sun, this one much bigger. Here's my hand for scale. By the way, my as a finger update, so I broke my finger, I crushed my finger earlier this year. The nail fell off, but is growing back, so we're all good there. Finger feels and looks normal. Anyway, these probably aren't super old petroglyphs. There's a sign down by the parking area, and it says that these were probably done by the Shoshone tribe, and probably in the late 1700s, early 1800s time frame. Looks like wheat, doesn't it? That's so interesting how that image, that motif, is repeated so many times here. This is a fairly large panel full of those incisions. And then this panel right next to it, looks like there could be a person here. Got this round shape, maybe some legs, another person potentially right there. I wonder if any of those are meant to represent pinyon trees, because I mean, this shape, that looks a lot like some of the shapes etched in the rock, doesn't it? But I've saved the most colorful and what I think are the best for last. They're also the closest to the parking area, and they're underneath this little alcove right here. So on the right side, we have this little circle, but on the left side, we have this beautiful little gem. Look how colorful that rock is. Whoever carved this into the rock, they knew what they were doing. Finding the most colorful little stretch of rock here. Isn't that amazing? I've never seen anything like this before. It's not very big. I mean, it's smaller than my hand, but man, I feel like I could just stare at that for hours. That is so beautiful. What do you think it is? What do you think it means? I mean, obviously it's a person, maybe with wings. I don't know. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Oh, and I just realized, so here's the little alcove, and I looked to the right at this boulder here, and it's full of those marks too. Huh. There isn't a ton of Native American rock art in this area, certainly not compared to southern Utah, for example. But the stuff that is here is really interesting, really pretty, and very unique. So there's this stuff here, and then also over that way, about 6 or 8 miles over in this direction, there are some petroglyphs called the White Mountain petroglyphs. And those are really cool. I'm gonna put some clips here or pictures here or something from the last time I was there. I'll put a link to that video down below. This was, I think, a couple of years ago when I did a couple of videos sweeping through this area. Saw some really cool stuff that I think you guys would like to see. If you liked what we saw today, that stuff is the more well-known stuff. What we saw today is fairly unknown, fairly lesser known. But with that, we're gonna get out of here. I have some driving to do, 2 or 3 hours of driving to do actually. As promised, ultimately, the plan for today is to get to the mountains, but again, we do have a little bit of driving to do. Also have some stops to make along the way, nothing super interesting. I'm gonna stop to get some ice cream along the way, and I need to stop in Pinedale to get some supplies, like I think I'll get a sandwich for dinner or something like that. And then we have some more driving to do beyond that to go, again, deeper into the mountains to go find a campsite. Anyway, I'm not gonna film it, but we'll meet back up again once we get to camp in the mountains. I've stayed at a lot of free campsites over the years, but this one has to be one of the more epic. We're on the banks of the Green River, and look at that. When I first got here, these mountains were lit up with the sun, and it looked just incredible. This mountain right here is called Flat Top Mountain. It's an iconic image of the Wind River Range. We're gonna get a closer look at that tomorrow. Man, this is a beautiful spot, beautiful way to end a great day. And this is a great time of year to come here because there are no bugs, there are no mosquitoes. It's still too cold, it's still a little bit too early for the bugs. Give it another month and this is gonna be mosquito ground zero. It'll be a chilly night tonight. I looked at the forecast for Pinedale, which is the nearest town over that way. and it was gonna get down to 35 degrees tonight. And we're even higher here, so it'll be probably around freezing tonight. Should be fine though. Also should be interesting to see if it rains tonight. It rained a little bit when I initially got to this campsite. It's clear now, but I mean, there are threatening clouds in basically every direction. I've never spent a night in the rooftop tent in the rain. And so wish me luck. I could always, I guess, escape to the inside of the car, but you know, I wanna give it a fair shot in the rooftop tent tonight. Just unreal. I can't get over this place, and it feels so good to be back. I've been craving this place. I've been dreaming about coming back here. Oh man, and it's just good for the soul. You know, I've talked about this a little bit in the past, but if you're lucky in your life, you'll find places that just make your heart sing. Places that just strike a chord within you and you just connect, you know, you just know that that's your place. This, for me, is one of those places, if not the place. I absolutely love it here. And I can't wait for tomorrow's adventure. We're gonna go deeper into the mountains, so be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. You don't wanna miss that. I just hope the weather is gonna be decent. But you know, as much as I love this place, I love where we were earlier today too. I felt the same thing earlier, like in that emptiness, in that vastness, seeing all the ripples of the landscape, seeing all the potential for future things that I want to see and do. I felt the same way out there. Like I just love this part of the country. Southwestern Wyoming, or I guess Western Wyoming in general, is just a special place, guys. This is just, it's just unreal for me. Your mileage may vary. I hope you've found whatever the place is that makes your heart sing. For me, this is it. I feel like I can breathe. I feel like I'm home. I love it. I can't get enough of it. Hope you guys enjoyed it too. Thanks for watching. I'm curious in hearing what you thought about the day's adventures. I'm having trouble forming my thoughts because I just want to like turn back here and just stare, or just sit down and stare out. I missed it. I really, really did. Anyway, we're gonna wrap this up. Whoa. Thanks for watching, guys. Again, let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you in the next one. Be sure to check out Adventure Know-How, my new site, where you can gain access to a map of all of my free campsites, plus monthly bonus videos that you won't find anywhere else. Learn more at adventureknowhow.com. And for links to everything else SUV RVing related, visit suvrving.com. Links to these sites and more will be in the video description.